I grew up on this road called Greeley's Valley Road in Lafayette. I love to explore. So I was a science fiction fan, and from reading all these great authors, I developed the ambition to one day to build the world's first starship. When I went to college, it was a bit of culture shock. I applied to several different schools and chose Dartmouth College in New Hampshire to go to for my undergraduate schoolwork. I first began to experience symptoms during the summer of my 18th year. And I began to have these weird nightmares that I felt had spiritual significance that I had to pay attention to for guiding my life. Then when I came home from college after that freshman year, I began to hear voices. And I'd been under a lot of stress that freshman year, as I think many freshmen do experience when they go to college. The depression and anxiety that came out of that exhaustion nearly drove me to consider taking my own life. So finally, I called up a friend who was a great friend from high school who I'd gone to prom with. And she and her mom realized the state that I was in and that they couldn't take care of me in the state that I was in. So they took me to the local psychiatric hospital, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to admit that I had psychiatric conditions that I couldn't manage on my own. I wanted to be self-reliant and didn't want to admit that I couldn't handle it. After I was diagnosed, I didn't want to tell too many people. In fact, I didn't want to accept that I had such a diagnosis. So I just told a select few friends that needed to know, because I needed their support, I needed their company to get through these hard times. After a while, I began to isolate, and that wasn't very good for my mental health either. I was able to graduate from college on time with honors with 2 degrees, get a job at a spacecraft engineering firm in the Silicon Valley, worked there as an engineer for about 6 years, and do really well. And then I had a second episode, sadly. I'd gotten into graduate school to get a Master of Engineering degree, and I knew that I'd have to study a lot more than sleeping 9 hours per night would let me do. And the medications I was taking then made me sleep about that long as a side effect. So I decided not to take my medications anymore, to ramp them off. Gradually, but definitively. By the time I told my psychiatrist what I was doing with that, I'd already gone down to half the dose. And he said, well, I don't like this, but be careful. You can go ahead, try it. And then I had a terrible relapse. I had to resign from my job, had to go back in the hospital. That's when my expectations for my life changed. I thought I tried so hard. I thought I could succeed. The stress got to me. I don't know if I can handle this. And that was hugely demoralizing. Now, that second episode, it took me years to recover from that one. I became the first communications director for One Mind at the time, built its first website, and it's gone on from there with blogging, webcasting, and all the work that I do today. We're tackling the brain health crisis by accelerating collaborative research and advocacy to enable all people facing brain health challenges to build healthy and productive lives. We're doing this across 3 dimensions, all 3 dimensions that we can experience: science, services, and society. And I'm really proud of how we are beginning to integrate these different parts of our ecosystem that we manage into a cohesive whole. We have funded huge, large-scale programs to figure out ways to help people who are in the early stages of different forms of serious mental illness, so they can be treated in a personalized way, unique to them, and recover with their best possible chance. Now we're moving into services, helping people with the discoveries that are made by those scientists that I just talked about. And society, helping reduce the stigma, normalize conversations around mental health, and help people understand the need for the science and the services that will get us to a much better place. I'm grateful that I've recovered as well as I have, but wellness never ends. Wellness is not a destination, it's a journey. And I think understanding that, for me, has been really exciting, to know that there's no end point to what my life can become.